Come on. Oh, come on, do it. There's a plan. What the fuck? Oh, okay. Hey, welcome to another riveting edition of The Ghost and the Goat. I'm your host, Buddy Thayer, paranormal investigator, welcoming you to join me by the hand. I don't know how I'm coming in. I'm a little slow. I'm looking at my intro was a little like, I don't know if I'm coming through clear. Hopefully I am. Hopefully someone will say, hey, buddy, you're skipping, or hey, buddy, you're not skipping. We're getting you live, and in full effect. Yeah. So let me take a sip of my beer, guys. Oh God, it's been one of those days, boys and girls. You know, just a long day. I need a long beer. Gonna have a nice show this evening. Hopefully, my computer doesn't crap out. It's giving me some poopy issues signing on, so hopefully we're all good. As I said, Buddy Thayer, paranormal investigator. Join me by the hand. Let's walk together into a very paranormal field. Let's just say your video is skipping, but not your audio. Fantastic. So, as long as you can hear me, I think that's all that really matters. If I need to, what am I doing here? If I need to, hello, buddy. If I need to, good Lord, bear with me, boys and girls. If I need to, I'll just on camera eyes, and you can just listen to me. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, so this evening we have a very special show. We have a very special guest on. But before we welcome this guest on, join me as we skip through the fields to go into the paranormal fields, and we stop in the tumultuous fields of the sporting teams here in the New England region. If you at all follow the NBA or the amount of shit that I've talked throughout most of the season, you know that I picked the Boston Celtics to win the entire thing. And if you follow the NBA playoffs at all, you know that I was completely wrong, and my foot went completely in my mouth. And the Boston Celtics ended up blowing a 3-1 game lead against the goddamn 76ers. And now the 76ers are facing the stupid Knicks in the next round of the playoffs. The Magic faded in Detroit, and they lost to the Pistons. And the Pistons are now playing against the Cavaliers. It's 56-44. Go, who cares? The Celtics are out. As far as I'm concerned, basketball's over. My heart is broken. They played. It was a tremendous season. They had their downs to begin with, but they rebounded. They played well without Tatum. And then Tatum came back, and I'm like, oh man, these guys are going to dominate, and they were. And Tatum went out in Game 6. He was out for Game 7, and they were going to surprise everybody with this surprise starting five. I think they were even surprised. They didn't surprise anybody except themselves, because they absolutely blew it in Game 7 against the stupid 76ers. Stupid. So the Celtics are, of course, out of it, as you can tell by my melodramatic tone. Game 1 on the West Coast features the Thunder raced past the Suns, and they have the Lakers. They're I think they're actually ahead. No, it's Game 1. They haven't played. They're playing Game 1 this Cinco de Mayo this evening. Happy Cinco de Mayo, by the way. If you don't have a margarita, here's a beer. Cheers. More about this in a minute. Timberwolves are not going to knock the shit out of the Nuggets, and they moved on to the next round, and now they have the Spurs. They're going to start tomorrow night. The Knicks already destroyed like a 37-point deficit in game one of the second round. So that's the awfulness that is basketball. The awfulness that is ice hockey. The Bruins, who had no business making the playoffs, made the playoffs, and we see why they had no business being in the playoffs, because they absolutely got manhandled by the Sabres and knocked out of the playoffs, and who cares about hockey? The Red Sox, oh God, it was an ugly April. We fired our coach, our manager, our boy Alex Cora, and we haven't really rebounded since. I think they might have 17 wins. I might be overstating. Right now they're up on the Tigers, which is surprising. Top of the fifth inning, there's no outs. The Red Sox are ahead 10-2. This does not happen often. Everything's kind of been falling apart. The locker rooms infighting. The veterans are fighting with the youngsters. Trevor Story was going at it with Rafaela the other night because he didn't throw the right bag or what. I don't know. You guys are all sucking. You guys all didn't suck. Cora would still be here, and you guys would be doing so. Your season looks depressing and abysmal while they're ahead 10-2 right now. I don't know if maybe this is where they turn things around. I don't know. Roman Anthony is out for a little bit. He's got a oblique or a hamstring. I don't know. He's injured to some capacity. Garrett Crochet is on the IR. I think 15 days, which feels like 15 weeks. Suarez has been showing that he can be a pitcher, I guess, but he's won a few games. But the Red Sox are in the cellar. They have to totally gut the entire organization and rebuild. That's my thought. They have Chad Tracy in there from the Woo Sox, and they don't show much promise in wanting to keep him on either. Side note, speaking of the Woo Sox, I'm going with some clients tomorrow for work to a Woo Sox game, which I swore I would never go to Worcester to see a game because they took my beloved Pawtucket Red Sox and they moved them to stupid Worcester. While Worcester is still stupid, and Pawtucket is way better. Polo Park is really nice. They have some really nice vendors. I'm looking forward to the BT's Smokehouse Barbecue. While I can't drink, I can't have $5 beers there, which is completely unheard of in a professional stadium. Usually, it's like at Amica Center in Providence, it's $14 for a Buddy Light. There, it's $5. Oh, if only I didn't have 4 clients with me. But whatever, it will be a great time. Hopefully, the rain holds out and go Red Sox or go Woo Sox, whatever. Because with the oh Jesus, and I'm spilling my beer. So that's really all that. I don't have anything to say about the Dolphins other than they still suck, and they'll just continue to suck from here till I don't know. Like the year after I die, they'll win the Super Bowl. That's how we'll go with the Dolphins. That's my belief. Not to be all morbid and shitty. There's really no else sports going on, but a little bit about the beer I'm drinking really quick. I have a few minutes till we welcome our guest. So I got right here. This is a Belgian white. I'm going slow with the screen because I'm skipping it. I'm just trying to talk about the beer that I'm looking at right now. It's a Belgian white. It's a beautiful, beautiful ale. It's called Fade to White, ironically enough. It's by this local company called Proclamation Ale Company, which I want to do a quick shout out to Proclamation and the good people at Proclamation. So before I started podcasting, when I was first given the opportunity to podcast with we'll call him a friend at the time of mine. He's like, buddy, we got to do this paranormal podcast. It'd be great. You can come on and talk about ghosts. I can tell you how I don't believe in ghosts. We can have people on. I'm like, yeah, that'd be fun, Mike, or Dick, whatever. But one condition: the beginning of every show, I want to just bring a beer on. I want to pour my beer out, pour my beer. I want to talk about the beer a little bit for the first 5-10 minutes of every show, and then just mosey about the show, drinking the beer as I go, as I do now. So we first premiered January 3rd, 2021. A week before that, A very special man passed away here in, that was very crucial and very key to Rhode Island craft beer, the Rhode Island craft beer community. Not only did he brew some of the most amazing beers out there, boys and girls, but he he helped to pass and advocate for laws to be passed to help the distribution, to help the production of great beers, so that people could enjoy them outside the brewery and out around their hometown, and then take it home and share it with the fam or whatever. This guy's his name was Dave Whittam. So Dave Whittam founded Proclamation Ale Company back in I want to say 2014 ish, maybe a little bit before. They used to be down in West Kingston, down by URI. Then they got a little bit bigger, and they moved up to Warwack, where they are now, or where they almost formerly were now. So they moved into a bigger facility. While their water changed a little bit, and some of the beers did change slightly in taste, they still had a huge cast of characters as far as beers go. Tonight, I not only have a Belgian this evening, I'm also drinking their Flummox, aka Brew at the Brew Zoo, which they had at Brew at the Zoo to help Roger Williams Park Zoo, which is a lovely place with animals here in Rhode Island. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so yeah, this guy Dave died. This guy Dave, he ended up getting diagnosed with cancer in Thanksgiving of 2021, and at Christmas Day 2020, Christmas Day of 2020, Dave passed away. He was like my age, and he was like this pillar of craft beer. So for our first show on January 3rd, my first beer was Proclamation Tendril. I'm like, oh, this is great beer. These guys do great things. The guy just died. Go out there and grab that beer. So my heart was broken recently because the owner, Lori, who is the widow of Dave Whittam, the genius behind this, she announced that due to they've been fighting this lawsuit for over 6 years since Dave was alive, due to this and different cost expense issues and different the new generation doesn't drink as much as the older generation, yada yada yada, all these different reasons. They had to close the brewery. Holy shit! Such a massive, awesome place, Proclamation Ale Company. So big cheers to Lori Whittam and Dave Whittam. May your I hope you're rested in peace too, because you made some amazing beer that I've enjoyed tremendously over the years, and it got me started in the podcast world. So for better or for worse, Proclamation. Cheers. I think that's about it, really. I have a beer and for sports. Sports really sucks. Beer is really good. Speaking of beer, and before I flip the switch to the paranormal, speaking of beer, my other podcast, Three Dudes Brews. Hold on, let me flat. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. No, it's on the wrong screen. Never mind. Three Dudes Brews. Here we go. Here it is. It's a podcast featuring myself, Kostas, the Greekiest man I know, and Ed. We traveled to different breweries, and it's a pre-recorded thing. So we pre-recorded show. We go to different breweries. We pick the mind of the brewer. We say, talk about beer culture, beer craft, inspirations, insights, all this stuff at the brewery, drinking the beer with the brewer. Awesome show. Check it out. We're releasing Nickel Creek. Oh my God, I said it right. Nickel Creek Winery. Actually, we went to a winery. Whole new different level of alcohol enthusiast, but awesome in its own right. Great show, great people. They're out of Foster, Rhode Island. Check them out. Check out all of our other great shows. We put out 5. This would be 5 guys. We put out in less than a month. So check them all out. I think we're up to 18-ish. We got the Guild episode coming out soon, and we're recording 2 more this month. We're just pumping out beers and we're pumping out shows. So check out Three Dudes Brews, my other thing. We also do a live podcast every 2 weeks or so. So we're not having one this week. We're having one next week. It depends, I guess. We just have a craft brew enthusiast. And the 3 of us and the enthusiasts just wax beer and beer culture and all that fun shit. So tune in for all that good stuff. Let me take a sip of my beer. Very delicious. Very light, refreshing, appropriate for the warm season that is to come. And it's spring in New England, and it's beautiful. My favorite season ever. So you like a good, nice, easy, smooth drinking beer to drink while you're, watching the Red Sox lose. Not tonight, though, actually winning, or mowing the lawn or something here. And this is a great one. Although you won't find this for very much longer. You can still find it in the package stores here and there, but so sad. Anyway, what's not sad? Joining me this evening, as always, my lovely and talented co-host. Please welcome to the show, Guy.
Hello. Sorry, I have a dog back here doing this thing.
Okay. Like fuzzy issues. I don't know. It's moving faster than it was. It's not skipping right now. Hopefully,
right, it's not.
This flashing. It's almost like a disco, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll be all right.
All right. How are you? I'm good.
Oh yeah, I'm all
How have
right.
you
I'm all
been?
right. Yeah, I'm ready for the spring. I'm doing the beds this weekend and finishing painting the house inside the house and drinking good beer and doing the paper in between. So yeah, it's busy, it's going, but that's the best way to do it. Just stay busy, keep
Yeah.
moving, all that fun shit.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
speaking of fun shit, joining us this evening, he's the author, adventurer, international speaker, and paranormal investigator. Our guest has harbored a lifelong passion for the strange and unusual. Growing up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, he spent most of his days at the local library reading up on cryptid creatures, UFOs, historic mysteries, and his favorite topic, ghosts and hauntings. Mine also. My favorite topic also. My favorite topic. Ugh. In 2010, he, along with Creaking Door radio co-host Tim Ellis, established the Michigan Paranormal Convention, one of the top paranormal gatherings in the world, held every single summer in his hometown of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. He is the co-author of Supernatural Haunts, which explores some of the most fascinating case files from the UPPRS team's decades of research and Great Lakes monsters and mysteries, which delves into the creepier legends, happenings, and cryptid sightings of the Great Lakes region. Anyway, in his first solo publication, Paranormal Justice: Hauntings, Cryptids, and Curses in the Court of Law, he examines the conundrum faced by the courts and legislatures around the world when the paranormal intertwines with the established legal systems. Along with Tim Ellis, he co-owns Supernatural LLC, which operates historical and paranormal walking and maritime tours in Michigan's oldest city. Here we go again. Sault Ste. Marie. I'm probably screwing that up, but we'll see. He has explored haunted locations throughout North America as well as Europe and Cuba, and has contributed to many books, articles, and documentaries on the paranormal, and continues to pursue a lifelong education of the bizarre. Please welcome to the show, Brad Blair.
Brad. That sounds a lot longer when you say it, buddy. I thought it was a brief one I sent you.
Right.
How you doing?
I'm a slow reader, I guess. I don't know. How you doing, Brad?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Maybe it's that swill you're drinking. You need to stick to good old classic like Blatz.
Oh, yeah.
It's 1851, one of Milwaukee's originals.
Milwaukee. Oh, yeah, Milwaukee. You guys get good beers out there. You're out in Great Lakes, so Michigan, right?
Yeah. I'm right up on the Canadian border. Sault Ste. Marie. It's French pronunciation, so I'll let you slide on that one. But yeah,
the French always get me.
As far north in Michigan as you can get. In fact, we had a little bit of snow this afternoon.
Oh God,
we're done with it. It's been a long winter.
So. I'm a New Englander, and I stopped bitching about the snow in like November. So by March I'm done with it. I'm absolutely done. So
I am at my age. I am done with it by the end of Christmas season.
Yeah, right.
But it's not really an option up here. So yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, awesome, Brett. So, paranormal investigator, is that where you started, and when did it start?
So it's not really the traditional ghost hunter story. I know so many people said, well, we grew up in a haunted house or visited this haunted cabin as kids. I grew up in let's just, without dating myself too much, let's say the late 70s when I was in early elementary school. And I met these two guys, Tim Ellis and Steve LaPlante, who are still to this day two of my best friends.
Nice.
And we were the weird kids on the playground. We'd tell ghost stories. and talk about Bigfoot and hauntings and all these weird things, because we're in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, which, if you're not familiar, it's a third of Michigan's landmass, but only 3% of the state's population lives here.
Oh, wow.
So, you get creative and you start throwing stories back and forth, and you keep yourself entertained different ways. And yeah, we were the ones that were just always, we fed each other's imaginations. Mm-hmm. So instead of any of us living in a haunted house or having these experiences, we would go down to the library and check out anything we could get on the weird, the bizarre. I can remember the first time I found a book on the actual Amityville murders, not the haunting, and started going backwards on that. Mm-hmm. And we fed each other on until we got into high school, and then you get the driver's license and you get freed up, and next thing you know, we're out in the country and hitting these old abandoned cemeteries. And kids don't do this at home, but trespassing in abandoned homes out in the country and farmhouses. And we got the Ouija board and the candles going, and it got to be a weekly thing. And where we were the creepy kids, you've got the jocks and some of these cool kids coming up on the side saying, hey, we called it spooking. We would go out spooking on the weekends. So that was going, now it would be called urban exploration to a point, or maybe semi-paranormal investigating. But we'd have people hauling in these cars, and we'd be off in these cemeteries and doing mini seances and going through these old homes. And it got to be kind of a little cult following that we had. And we had a blast with it. And that was just us as kids growing up. And our parents always thought we'd outgrow it. And obviously we never have.
Never have, right. So then let me ask them, Brad, what was your first experience where you're like, yeah, this is it. This is for real. This is a thing.
So while we were doing this, we were at an old cemetery outside of town, and it had been abandoned for many years. Mm-hmm. And we had the Ouija board out there, and we had candles on this grave. Not something real smart to do or ethical nowadays, looking back, but we were 16, 17.
Right. You don't know.
And you're asking, the usual questions for the signs and can you come through? And right behind us, we heard this deep moaning from the woods. We're like, holy shit. And I mean, we're in literally the middle of nowhere. There's not a house for miles around. And one of the guys that was being kind of a smart ass and thought maybe it was an animal went on and said, oh yeah, whatever. If you're there, can you push this branch over in front of us? Well, I'll be goddamn, the thing just fell over. And we took off out of there so fast. I'm not sure the one guy didn't piss himself. I think he probably did, but Ouija board, candles, everything left there. And the next day we went back out to get it, and we found the Ouija board. We never did find the two candles that were there. Don't know what happened there, but that was one of the times that we said, we've always kind of believed in it, obviously, or we wouldn't have kept going the way we did.
Been doing it. Yeah, right.
This was an experience that, like, maybe this shit's a little too close to home. Mm-hmm. But we kept on with it, and the three of us that founded the group and kind of were the ringleaders, so to speak, went off to different colleges, and we all ended up back in Sault Ste. Marie after school. And we said, this is we're a little too old to be running through graveyards and trespassing. If we're going to do this, let's kick it up a notch. And back around 98, 99, we founded the Upper Peninsula Paranormal Research Society, which we turned into a 501c3. We're a Michigan nonprofit, so we could do this legally now. Yeah. And we could go and we raised money for a lot of different foundations and charities, which we've been proud of. But we also got a legal status, and it helped us get into different locations. So all of a sudden, we're going into these historical lighthouses and museums, and people are just giving us the keys and saying, okay, lock up when you're done. And we're like,
yeah, that's lovely.
This really happens.
That's nice. So, I have a key to one of my favorite locations ever. And I get an alarm code, and they're like, hey, just let me know when you want to go in anytime. You want to go in by yourself, and you want to go in, whatever. Go ahead, buddy.
Great. And it's wild. It still blows my mind to this day that we can walk into some of these places. You've got all of these historic artifacts that some you can't even put a price on.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, no, you guys are legit here. Call us when you want us to lock up, or just lock the door on your way out. We can't wait to see what you guys find. That's still, awesome. It still strikes me as odd to this day, I guess, because a lot of these places, the owners, managers, they don't know us personally. but they're willing to open up and let us in and let us do our job and see what we can find or can't find. So it's still something this many years later that
it said something about the research value of it, to be able to have the access to do it anytime, any condition, any like phase of the moon, any weather conditions. Do you feel like those conditions kind of weigh in or have some kind of they matter as far as this is concerned?
A good, I think there's something to be said for it, because obviously it provokes different energies in the atmosphere. But
it does, yeah, right.
I think a good hunt is a good hunt, and if you go into an area that's active and there's something that wants to be heard from, they're going to let you know regardless of that. I haven't found where that is the end all be all. Absolutely, I think the right conditions where energy is a little more conducive and something might be able to manipulate. Absolutely, that's going to help with your communications. That's just science.
As the guy who's worked in mental health for years, and the paranormal, of course, I find that the full moon is, while there's not enough studies to connect this, there is definitely a correlation between the full moon and people, like living energies.
I have friends in law enforcement that will back you on that 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I work in a nursing home. And when there was a full moon, so much crazy stuff would happen.
Right.
Well, you look at how the full moon affects the tides too. I mean, there is a physical component to that. Yes, that is affecting energy here on Earth. So how could you deny that it could be affecting paranormal activity as well? Because let's face it, at the end of the day, anything that's happening, you can put as much juju into it as you want, but it's energy manipulation. Anything you're getting, any voices that you're recording, anything that's being moved, anything you're seeing, there's some manipulation of energy on that. So if you're talking about lunar energy and the lunar effect on things happening on Earth and the full moon, absolutely. I think there's a factor to that. But again, I think if you're trying to plan all of your investigations and what you're going to do around the full moon, you're really limiting yourself.
Yeah, you really can't do that. It's a factor that might weigh in, it might not, but it's maybe something to be noted in the whole research of things. Another thing I want to ask you, you mentioned the Ouija board, Brad. I've never personally used a Ouija board, but there's so much negative connotation around the Ouija board that it's satanic and all this other silly shit. What are your thoughts on the Ouija board?
So I grew up using the Ouija board, and that was one of our tools. As I said, back in high school, and we did Ouija seances, and I had a couple of experiences that still kind of freak me out and creep me out now. I had a lost time experience once where it turned out we were on it for about 2 hours. We thought it was about 15 minutes. We've had, I can't even get into some of it, but we had very strange experiences. And then we got into what we considered the more serious side of investigating. As I said, when our group got together and all of a sudden we're adults, in quotes, coming out of college with degrees, and we want to do, we can't use Ouija boards. That's poo-poo.
Right.
But the more I got into it and the longer I went, and it's something that, I don't know if you're familiar with Richard Estep, the author.
Yep.
So investigating with Richard quite often over the last 4 or 5 years, I buy often, a couple times a year, but we BS a lot, and we're pretty good friends. And Richard broke one out. We were investigating in Tombstone, Arizona.
Nice.
We were at the OK Corral, actually. They gave us the OK Corral one night, and we had the Boot Hill Cemetery the next night. And Richard broke out the Ouija board, and I said, you really put a lot of credence into that. He said, why would you take tools off the table?
Right.
Good point.
Yes.
He said, you get different people have different views. We've got a guy on our group that if we break out a Ouija board, he's leaving the place. He won't be around it. Creeps him out totally.
Now, do you feel like that just comes from, that's like a fear from like what Hollywood has put forth, or from what TVs and movies, or is there something legitimate to be said about using the Ouija board?
You can trace a lot of that back to The Exorcist. I mean, before that, it was more of a sleepover game. In your slumber parties, people would break out the Ouija board. And it goes back to the age of spiritualism, and where it was considered a real tool. there wasn't a real negative connotation put on it until you got there were different stigmas around it, but once The Exorcist got released back in 1973, was it somewhere around there?
Yeah,
that's where the Ouija board became this damned object that you don't touch that. That's evil.
Right. You're gonna get possessed. You're gonna be running down the stairs upside down and backwards on your head. That's spewing at people.
If you went back to the original days when the Kennard Novelty Company was putting it out, and they were religious people involved in that. Mm-hmm. They were giving tons of money from all the money coming in from this to their churches. Churches had no problem taking the money from the Ouija board. It was just after the fact that all of a sudden you got this stigma around it. And, maybe this isn't something that should be. And then, The Exorcist hit. And all of a sudden, this is evil. My mother hated that I had a Ouija board in the house.
Yeah, of course.
She was always wanting to get rid of it. And it was just, but like I said, it goes back to that whole influence from Hollywood and just the current pop culture, whatever that tends to veer it towards. And I think that's where that got, because let's face it, if you're on a Ouija board, yes, you believe you're opening yourself up to spirit activity and you're letting it come through you. But how's it any different than if you're using doing EVP and using
anything, a pendulum, the dowsing rods, recorder.
You're opening up to communication. I hate to say it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with me, but as soon as you open your mind up and say, we want to communicate with you, whether it be as simple as, well, what's your name? Where were you born? These generic EVP questions. You're opening yourself up to be exposed to spirit. And when that happens, whether it be the Ouija board or Obelisk, any of these other instruments that you might be using, you're putting yourself in that same frame of mind. And if you're letting them come through you, what's the difference if it's a board or a piece of mechanical equipment?
True. So with that being said, the Ouija board is retired. What is not retired, not off the table completely, but not your go-to tool, of course, because you're a little bit more professional these days. What would be your go-to tool in any given investigation?
If I go in anymore, I will have a digital audio recorder with me. I'll have a notebook and a pen.
Yep.
Usually something, some type of a camera. It's kind of a bell curve. I look at it going back to when we were starting out, and this was pre-reality television days. So keep that in mind. So we've got everything we knew we'd learned from reading. Hans Holzer, the Warrens, some Lloyd Auerbach, and the only time you saw anything on TV was Halloween. So we'd rush home from school to watch Jenny Jones or Phil Donahue, whoever was going to have the paranormal guys on, within the weeks leading up to Halloween. So I can remember going into our first real investigation, coming out of college, having an actual group and having the cassette recorders, pushed down and hours of cassettes and the heavy video camera and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, when reality TV hit and you had all these gadgets getting pushed in, we're buying all these gadgets and building up, and we've got totes, and we still have totes and totes of electronics dating back for 20 some years. And you're using all these, and you get to this point where all of a sudden you've got more electronics going and you're watching the lights on this one and listening for the beat from this one. And you're not paying attention to the atmosphere and you're not paying attention to what's really going on, that you could have a ghost standing behind you, the spirit of somebody, and you're not even going to know it. So we kind of, like I say, you got that bell curve. You keep building up all this equipment and hiding it from your wives or significant other, whoever it is, because you don't want them to know how much you're spending on the equipment. And then you realize how little you use these pieces.
Yep.
And so you stop and you kind of go back down, and it comes full circle to where we keep it simple anymore. It's really an audio recorder. We take notes. So we like to have a camera system set up to see if anything moves. And that's, I like to have something for an EMF detector of some sorts or another, whether it be a REM pod or just a tri-field, something to check the atmosphere in the area. But we load so much up, and so many of these teams do it. And Yeah, it's the nature of the beast. When we started our group, there were, I believe, 5 teams in the state of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And after all these shows started popping, all of a sudden, when we put together the Michigan Paranormal Convention back in 2010, there were over 100 teams in the state of Michigan.
Oh, I believe it.
So, it went that quick that just everybody was learning from television, which was a double-edged sword, because there's entertainment, and then it's
kind of like it's enough to tease you to get you want to do it, but like you can't actually go out and do this stuff because that's not really they're doing it's for entertainment what they're doing. I mean, so some of the stuff they're doing is a good baseline to start. You don't want to you don't want to do all that.
Exactly, but that's not where you want to get all of your info from in any field. The more you research, the more you learn. Read up on it. That's what we always tell people. Go back, check on the pioneers, see what they were doing. I love Harry Price. I've got every book he wrote.
Oh yeah, right. He was Ghost Club, right? Harry Price. He was.
What's that?
He was with the Ghost Club over in England, right? Am I thinking of the right person?
Ghost Club, and then he worked off and on with the SPR, kind of feuded with them, but he was so eccentric, and he was really the first modern ghost hunter, as I would say. He had a knack for getting in front of a camera, getting in front of reporters, and he had this flair for the dramatic. And there was a lot of stuff he did that was complete bullshit. And he knew it, but he knew it would draw attention.
Oh, yeah, right.
And, when he, I just read his 50 years of cyclical research, and he talks about all of these people he debunked, where in the meantime, he was like the Zach Baggins of his day. He could draw attention. He knew how to work the media. But at the same time, he was doing legitimate research, and he was building up his case studies, and he was probably one of the smartest people ever in the field as far as he read everything that had came out before him. He had one of the biggest paranormal libraries in history. He donated it, I believe it was to Oxford. I think they still have most of his works in his collection. But yeah, I mean, somebody like that he knew how to work both sides of the camera, so to speak.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people lost that. I think when it came into reality television, and as I said, we went from being 5 teams in the state that I knew of. Maybe there were a couple others, but getting up to over 100, and now it's come back down because the TV craze has kind of died off. If you have
there was so many shows.
Yeah.
It was hard to keep up, and it was like I just watching the same reproduced shit over and over again, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. And now that's kind of slanted, well, all of a sudden you had all these teams that realized we're not going to go out in the field and investigate for 3 hours and have shit flying around and hear noises. And what they never showed on TV is that for a 1-hour episode, which boiled down to 43 minutes, they investigated 3 to 4 nights at a location, and then all the editing. I mean, if you boil down an episode of Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures, how much actual investigative footage was there in those? Maybe 20 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, by the time you had your history, your backstories, you're evaluating the evidence afterwards, there wasn't a ton. And so you say you're taking 12, 15 hours worth of investigating, maybe more in some cases, and breaking it down to somebody got hit by a pebble or somebody heard a knock on the wall, and those were
right. And you know what? It kind of left an awful taste in my mouth. Brett, years ago, I used to do the convention scene here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and I went to one of the conventions, and a few of the guys who, I'm not going to say which show, but a few of the guys from the area who were involved in the filmmaking, when you ask them so you guys had all these this stuff happened that was question to your investigating and blah blah blah. I'm I don't want to come off disrespectful, but what's it like filming and an investigation? It can't be anything what actually happens, blah blah blah. And the guy says to me, I'm not going to identify him, but he says, you know what? For the first 2 hours of every recording session we would do, everywhere we would film, we'd film oh dude, did you hear that? We just film stuff like that. Just fake, just fake stuff like that. Just to so you're telling me that right off the bat, dude. You're telling me it's probably bullshit.
They've got all their B-roll footage that they can.
An entertainment factor only, honestly. Jay, I'm gonna throw it to you. What do you got? What do you got going on there? What do you got for our guest tonight?
I was going to ask you, have you gotten any EVPs, and if so, what was your most memorable one?
EVPs.
It's funny because people look at. I think from the outside they look at paranormal investigating and think most of it's about pictures and videos and all.
No.
We get more EVP than we do anything else.
Yes, that's my bread and butter. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorites, we were investigating, it's an old Great Lakes freighter, the Valley Camp, and it's docked here in Sault Ste. Marie. It's now a museum ship. And we've gotten to investigate that numerous times. It was featured on Kindred Spirits with Amy Bruni and Adam Berry.
Oh, yeah.
It's been in a lot of publications. And we were one of our first investigations there. We had we were doing it as a Halloween show. My buddy Tim works at a radio station. So for going on, I guess, 30 years now, not quite, 25, 26 years, we've done a live Halloween broadcast on the 30th of October every year going into. And we had it one night where a couple of people won the opportunity to come on this investigation with us. So we had these two young ladies, and I was down in the coal room of the Valley Camp, and this would have been a miserable place to work. Guys would have been shoveling coal in to keep the engines going. This was on the lakes in the early 1900s.
Yeah, cold, hot, dirty, and nasty.
Yes, unbelievably. And we heard this cough, like a rough male cough. And I said, "Did you hear that?" And one of the girls that was along with us said, "It sounded like somebody coughing." Now, the cough was just a voice phenomenon. Everybody heard it.
Yeah.
Loud. And the girl says, "It sounded like somebody coughing." Well, when we played that back in review, as soon as she says someone coughing, there's this very gruff male voice that says, "I am coughing."
Oh my God.
It was creepy as hell. God. It's still to this day one of my favorites.
That's great, dude. That's amazing.
And that's obviously an intelligent haunt where you've got somebody that's communicating with you
in the room. Like, are they in a different dimension? Are they in the same dimension? I had the same, not the same experience, but I had similar experience. I was investigating an old King Philip's war site here in Rhode Island. It was out in the middle of woods. We had to hike over a mile into the woods. Wintertime, not a lot of people outside, middle of nowhere. And there's this like old cemetery sign there. And it's like, I'm like, where's the cemetery? They're like, you're standing on it. It's like they rode through here. They just slaughtered like 300 Narragansett Indians, 1675-ish. So we're standing there, we're talking, and I hear in the distance what sounds like a woman's scream. Now, I didn't say that. I was with a medium. I was with these two guys, and these two guys were like filming like a documentary, and they had me on as like a historian / paranormal investigator, and her as the medium. And that's I brought, a Rembod, and I brought the audio recording. So when I said to them, I'm like, "Hey, did you hear that? You heard like a person in the woods?" They're like, "What'd you hear?" Like I heard a woman. And they sit and they listen for like 10 seconds. Like we hear you hear the traffic like on the highway, like a mile away, like distant. Like no, it's a lot closer. So we went on with the investigation. Nothing else really happened. The medium asked me if I heard a woman screaming. And I'm like, that's exactly what I heard. So when I went home and I listened to the recorder, it wasn't a woman screaming. It was a woman saying, "I can see you," which was like, holy shit. I had to rewind, replay. Oh my God. But those moments that when you get those EVPs, like blow my mind. Some of them are tough to hear, but like, Jai, if you've never investigated and you ever want to like do some cool shit, listen to like that recorder and hear your first EVP. That's probably the first through the thousands. It's but it never gets old.
Well, we talk about things like this all the time too. That you'll go on 9 investigations and have absolutely nothing happen.
Right.
You're sitting in an empty room in the dark, and then that 10th, you get that EVP. Or you get something sliding across a room, or a door closes, and it's like that extreme sport. You get that adrenaline rush, and all of a sudden, that's what keeps you coming back. Because let's face it, anything, if it gets too monotonous and nothing's going on, any sport, any activity you're in, you're going to lose interest and drop off. And that's what happened, I think, with a lot of these teams that started up during the reality show craze, that they got out there and they realized after a few investigations, nothing's happening.
Right.
And they lost interest and they lost half the team, and then the group fades off. But then, like I said, you might go for months and have nothing going on. And then you hit that one investigation that all of a sudden shit hits the fan, and you've got activity going on, and you're bringing in EVPs, you're seeing the shadow figure walk across the room. All of a sudden you get that rush. That adrenaline surge.
Sure.
That's what keeps me coming back anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but
for sure, dude.
It's like that extreme sport.
That one thing that always draws you back in, just like the disembodied voices, like you said. Oh my God, nothing gets me going, and like hearing something like that. That's just, and that's why you keep going back. I mean, while there are times where I've sat and listened in a room, we're sitting in a room for hours, nothing. Listen to the recordings, watch the hours of video.
And that's an average investigation. You don't
nothing, but that's
happen every time. It doesn't work that way. And I think that was the one downfall with the TV shows as far as paranormal groups went, is people went out and started this as a hobby, and it was great. We got more recognition from the mainstream, but then nothing's happening. I'm just, I'm throwing in the towel. That's it. Where if you've been in it long enough and no, you can't just summon this up to have it happen. Otherwise, it'd be proven you could prove it in a lab, which you can't to this point.
For sure. And certain places will be like dead, no pun intended, one night, and you can go back like a week or a night or 2 nights later, it's like completely active, completely flips the switch. It's not predictable at all, like you said, so you can't reproduce it in a lab.
No. One of our favorite places that we've investigated, probably more than any other, Szechuan Point Lighthouse. It's French for only choice, and it's on the upper tip of Lake Michigan. And this place is in the middle of nowhere. And for whatever reason, it's almost a vortex type area. Every time we go there, things happen. Oddly enough, it's the one place we've never gotten good EVP. We've had everything else happen. We've seen the shadow figures. We've seen full bodies there. We've had things move. Any kind of meter you bring, you can set off. But it's one of those places too that we would try and do events with, bringing other people in, and all of a sudden everything's quiet. And we've done some charity events, and all of a sudden it's quiet. There's not much going on. Even when it's that way, though, it was kind of funny. The one night, Tim will love hearing that, my paranormal partner in crime. We're wrapping up, and very little had happened. We had a couple of things that may or may not have been paranormal, and we're on opposite sides of this room where the camera system was set up and the monitors, and somebody patted me on the ass. And I turned around, and Tim and I have been best friends since first grade. I said, "Hey," it wasn't even a real question. I said, "Did you just grab my ass?" He said, "What?" I said, "This just happened." He's like, "I've been over here the whole time, but thanks." I said, "Yeah, well, it was the end of the night. It was very quiet. We were talking about how quiet things had been, and then like, oh, well, I guess they wanted us to know that they realized we're here, and they didn't want us to feel slighted." So that's weird things like that. But it's one of those. It's the most active place we ever go. But even there, you get those occasional nights that you're investigating, and
you feel like you're talking to walls.
There, nothing's going on.
That's it's not every night, and like you said, that's what pushed so many people out the door, that it wasn't always a thing that you could go and would be actually just seem like wasting your time, which is obviously what it seems like a lot of the times.
What is the most haunted place you've ever investigated?
The most, Szechuan is definitely up there. Michigan's got more lighthouses than any other state, so we love hyping up the lighthouses. The Great Lakes have so many lighthouses on them, and Whitefish Point Lighthouse is another one in the area that we've done, that we've had some very, very strange activity go on. This is where the SS Edmund Fitzgerald wrecked back in 1975 off of Whitefish Point. So it is, you get a lot of weird activity there. It's such a heavy feeling. They have the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum there.
Nice.
In going through the keeper's quarters the one night, me and my buddy Matt, who's one of our tech guys, we were the only two in the lighthouse keeper's quarters, and nothing. Again, this was one of those experiences where nothing's going on, and Matt's a total smartass, and he made some kind of joke right before we were going back to where the team was set up, and we hear this little girl giggle at the top of the stairs. Little kid giggling. Like, holy shit! Did you? Yeah, well, I guess we got to go up there.
Yeah.
So you go up, and we set up a tri-field EMF meter, and we started asking questions, and the meter was moving as the questions went for a good 2 to 3 minutes, which in this field is significant. And it just, we were both, hair on the back of your neck standing up, just this little, very distinct little kid giggling. So, I mean, that was kind of cool. I've hit some interesting places overseas. That Hunadora Castle in Romania, we had some very weird activity going on. But again, that was a one time. It was on a excursion that I was on, and you only got to investigate. I think we were there 3 to 4 hours, so it's not something I could go back and say, yeah, this is the most haunted place, because it was a one night, one and done investigation. Very happy to say I did that. It was very cool. But yeah, it's some of the places, and that's the problem with saying the most haunted, I think. Places that you get to investigate over and over and collect more data, kind of decide on where and what time certain activity you think might be happening. I think that's where you can say every person's most haunted place is different than other people's. So I could say, I've gone on, my wife and I have stayed at the Stanley Hotel many times.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've worked out there with some different paranormal groups too, and we've had bizarre activity there. Okay, so it's the most haunted I've been to. It's definitely in the running, but I don't have any, conclusive time after time that we've been there to set up parameters. So, yeah, I mean, we had one night we had covers pulled off us. The thermostat turned up. I left my wife. She was in the shower. I went down to the coffee shop, and she came down after, and she was kind of creeped out. She said, "Did you come back? Are you fucking with me?" I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, I had all my clothes laid out on the bed, and I came out of the shower, and they were on the floor, but laid out as they were on the bed, like somebody just lifted them and put them on the floor." And we were in the kids' wing out there. Anybody familiar with it? On the top floor, where the kids were left with nannies while all of the adults were down with the parties or social occasions. And kids giggling's heard down there all the time, and it's supposed to be one of the more active areas in the hotel. And we've had activity there, so there's things there that any other place I think you could at least try to explain away, but there's nothing that makes sense. So I love that. We're hoping to get back out there, in fact, next fall for a weekend.
Awesome. In the intro, Brad, we talked about a few of the places you've investigated, and also in Europe and Cuba. Can you talk a little bit about that? What did you do out there in Cuba?
Yeah, that's not the norm. So it was a typical northern Michigan winter one year. It was probably around early January, and I came home from work, and it was a snowstorm. It was freezing, and I just, you just kind of get the cabin fever sitting in up here when it's that way. Oh, and I get a call from psychic medium Chip Coffey, and Chip and I go back a ways, and he said, "Brad, Blair, would you consider going to Cuba?" I'm like, "That's interesting, Chip." So, "Well, you are a big Hemingway fan, are you not?" And I'm a big Ernest Hemingway buff. We talked about that before. I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm getting booked to do this paranormal event in Cuba, and they need another paranormal investigator to come along to do a couple of these investigations." And he said, "I thought of you right away because that's where Hemingway had his Fingavilla Lookout Farm. His Cuba home was right outside of Havana." So he said when I brought that up, the people that were putting on the event and promoting it said, "Oh, would he be able to do a Hemingway presentation?" I said, "I've never done one, but yeah, I can write up something on that. Maybe do a little bit of the Hemingway superstition." So ended up going to Cuba that spring with Chip and a group of people, and we did. It was interesting. It was very interesting. It's a different culture altogether. A lot of people ask, "Were you scared to go to Cuba?" And I got there, and the people were so indifferent. They didn't care that you were American. It made no difference to anybody else. They're not anti-American by any means. Very nice people. Very impoverished lifestyle. It's just
they'll drive older cars. Yes, like from the 1950s and 60s. Is that a thing?
So yes, it is. But those are all converted to diesel engines because they can't get the parts. You don't go to a Home Depot. That kind of thing doesn't exist there.
Right.
So it's very, they reuse everything. And a lot of those cars, you don't see real close-ups because they painted them with paintbrushes.
Oh, wow.
They don't have the air spray. So when you get up close, you can see that. But it's still very cool. But yeah, it was a great trip. We investigated Morro Castle right on the bay in Havana.
Oh, wow.
Which was, if you were American and look at it from a viewpoint of employment here, it's OSHA would have a fit. You're up on these roofs. There's no type of barriers. There's no fencing. And you think of all the history there. We started investigating, and we had a couple weird things happening.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it poured like you would never see. It was just heavy downpour. Everybody had to hurry up, get back in the vehicles and go back to the resort, which almost got flooded that night. So we only actually got to investigate for maybe an hour and a half, but still it was such a cool experience. So much history there. And it is a beautiful country. I would love to get back at some point.
Yeah.
And just spend another week and actually get to see things outside of the tour group and maybe do a little bit of paranormal work off to the side in some of the places that.
Right. Because you think of the history of Cuba. It's like Columbus. Even before Columbus, like Native Americans and all the history that's taken place since. It's got the Spanish, the Catholicism, all that.
Beautiful, beautiful beaches. This was funny. We were sitting at a little bar, and I guess you could call it a bar restaurant. And they're all government owned, but they're dotted along this beach side by the place we were staying at. And we found one that they just you could get chicken, fish, or lobster. Now, fish was whatever fish they brought in and prepared. Lobster were these little, not what you would expect to get.
Not like Maine lobster. Yeah.
And we found one that had really good chicken. This woman could make amazing. So we started, it was down the block from where we were staying. So we started going there almost every day for lunch. And I walked in the one day and Chip and the rest of our group were there. And he said, "Oh, these three girls at the next table wanted to meet you." I said, "Okay, that's interesting." So they came, "Oh, you're Brad." I said, "Yeah." And they're speaking very clear English.
Nice.
So I knew they were no accent to me. Yep. So I assumed they were Canadian because there's no ban on travel from Canada into Cuba.
Right.
And we got talking, and it turns out they lived in a town 40 miles south of me in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I didn't know them. They got talking and they mentioned that I was there from Michigan and said, "Oh, and we got BS." And I said, "Well, I've got a little gift shop down in the town you live in." "Well, what's the name of the store?" And I told them that, "Oh, we go there every spring and buy moccasins."
Oh,
like,
wow.
You're kidding.
Oh.
So we got middle of nowhere in Cuba,
Yep.
Of all the places to meet people. Sure enough, a couple months later, I get a call from the store. They said, "There's these girls in here that said they met you in Cuba and that we should give them a discount." And shoot, I laughed. "Yeah, go ahead. Well, I know exactly who you're talking about."
Cuban discount.
Huh. Bizarre synchronicities.
Yeah. So, Brad, tell me, you own Supernatural with your friend Tim Ellis. So tell us a little bit more about Supernatural. You guys do tours out of your home city there. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yep. So Supernatural LLC, we founded a couple of years ago. We've started out walking. We're Sault Ste. Marie is the oldest city in Michigan. It was founded by Jesuit missionaries, and the French voyageurs came down through here, and it was a heavy trading post.
Yeah.
And it's right at the top where we're on the St. Mary's River, which joins Lake Superior and Lake Huron. So two of the Great Lakes come together here, and it was an ancient Native American fishing village going back a couple thousand years at least. And so there's a great amount of history in this area. So Tim and I finally put together a haunted history walking tour that we do down on our waterfront. And that took off pretty well. And there's a boat cruise tour company that goes around through the St. Mary's. And we hit them up last year and said, what if we put together a haunted tour? So, there's so much history on both sides, the Canadian side, American side, we could hit on both.
Yeah.
There's a lot, everything from sea serpents in the area to Native American lore to just our old-fashioned military history that's in the area.
Yep.
So we started doing that too. We've got, Tim and I have a couple of books out, Supernatural Haunts with our third co-founder, Steve LaPlante, and then Great Lakes Monsters and Mysteries. So we're kind of wrapping everything under this banner to, I guess, centralize all of our paranormal activities that we can capitalize on, I guess, so to speak. Just put everything under one company and ease the liability on our regular day jobs. So. Okay,
fair. So you talk about sea monsters and monsters. Are you a cryptids guy also? Do you do the Bigfoot?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nice. I love the cryptid aspect. I think there's still a lot more out there that is not discovered, that it's gotten to the point where the world's gotten so small, it seems.
Yeah.
Through satellite imaging, everything else that's out there, but it's not like everything has been discovered yet. And we've gotten called in on a couple. As I said, we're a very sparse area population-wise.
Yeah.
We've got miles and miles of undeveloped waterfront here. We've got miles, hundreds of miles of unexplored woodland. So if a Bigfoot type creature or the Dogman was to exist, this would be a perfect habitat. There's plenty of wildlife, plenty of fresh water. And then, there's sea serpent sightings that have been through the Great Lakes for hundreds and hundreds of years, going back to Native American lore. And there's one right in our area, Leroy, who's the St. Mary's River monster, which is adapted from Leroux de Mer. It's an old, French voyageurs first saw this. And then the Native Americans said, oh, yes, no, we know this creature.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've had reports right up through modern days of this very long serpentine creature that's going up and through the river system.
Yeah.
So, there's all of that extra mystery, I think, with the cryptid side of things that.
Like maybe we have not here in Rhode Island, but up in Vermont, they have the Loch Ness monster there. Not Loch Ness, but Champ, the Lake Champlain. The Great Lakes has super deep, I imagine.
Oh yeah.
So something that size could probably exist without even being noticed or anything, right?
You would never know. Yeah, you would never know. There's so much. Well, you take Loch Ness monster. The Loch Ness is roughly, I believe, 22 square miles.
Oh, wow.
You can fit something like 1,400 Loch Nesses into Lake Superior alone.
Wow.
And they can't disprove the Loch Ness monster yet. So, you look at those and there's just such a huge ecosystem that you could have a creature like this. In my paranormal justice book, I wrote a little bit about that too. And the some of the laws, and in fact, I covered Champ in that too, because there are laws protecting Champ that you cannot harm in any way. I think in New York and Vermont both had laws on the books protecting this creature that is unknown. They don't know if it exists or not, but if it
just in case it does, don't shoot it, guys.
They want to make sure it stays there, and it's great for tourism. So
for sure. It's kind of cool too. I'm a ghost guy. I do believe in UFOs because there's a whole shit ton of stuff on UFOs. That's a whole nother podcast. But I mean, cryptids, beyond the cast moldings with Bigfoot, and like the bent branches, which could honestly be anything.
Anything. Yep.
What evidence is there to suggest that Bigfoot is an active creature?
It's the old X-Files saying, I want to believe. That's where I'm at with Bigfoot. I'm very skeptical.
Yeah.
I've been called into cases where they've found prints and they've had what they believe a lady about 20 miles outside of our city called us, and there was this about roughly 16.5-inch print. We got the casting, we got pictures of everything that went on, but she said, my dogs were going crazy and we saw something hairy walk by our window.
Yep.
Seemed standard enough, but her window casing that she was pointing to was about 8 feet in the air. So if something walked by that they saw, it had to be pretty damn big.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bear in that area. I'm not taking that away, but that's my thing with Bigfoot is, where is the corpse?
Right.
Where is the body? And I can see a lot more from the sea serpent aspect, because if something dies and sinks to the bottom or gets consumed,
we're not down
it's
there.
Really good. Yeah, there's a good chance you're never going to see that.
Where we roam most of the earth, whether people go out into like this secluded area of Michigan all the time or not. I'm sure there's hunters that go through that area. I'm sure there's people that get out there.
There's a lot of hunter reports.
Oh, really?
Okay. A lot of hunter reports of seeing a Bigfoot.
I'm not shooting it down. I love hearing the stories, guy. I know a lot of people who are like heavily into Bigfoot, especially through like the Appalachian country of the United States. It seems like it's more regional than it is like everywhere, like ghosts or UFO. What are your thoughts on that? You think Bigfoot is selective where he lives?
I think if Bigfoot is an actual flesh and blood creature,
okay,
as most people would believe,
not like a ghost or not like a UFO, some alien connection,
or I think if it's an actual flesh and blood creature that has not yet been discovered or categorized, then like any other animal, it needs to have the right habitat. It needs to have a certain amount of privacy, which obviously a creature like this would consume a lot of area. Woodlands, you need something with wild game. Obviously, something this big probably isn't going to be an herbivore. Right. So I would think that it would be eating some kind of meat, need some kind of protein. So you take those factors in. I had done an interview with a guy that runs the Upper Peninsula's Bigfoot research group. And I asked him, I said, and he kind of thinks that the government knows a little bit more about Bigfoot than is actually out there.
I'd be willing to buy that. Okay, go on.
Well, and I said, why? I said, why would they be hiding something along this lines? And I'd never thought of this before. So Rich Meyer, he says, Brad, he said, look at the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. He said, where we're at. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of logging going on. You have paper mills. You have all of this industry. Now, look, you have all of these different industries that feed into that, whether it be oil industries or different, all of these contributing factors. He said, now all of a sudden you've got this large unknown creature that you identify, and it becomes an endangered species. So now you've got the Endangered Species Act, and you need to set aside X amount of acreage for habitat for these creatures. So all of a sudden you can't log anymore. You can't be producing out in the woods anymore. You can't. He said the economic effect of this trickles down. And he said, so even if they know something's out there of this size, they don't want to have to convert an entire forest into a sanctuary. Right. And you're taking all of this outside of what could be profitable areas for industry. Mm-hmm. And I said, I've never thought of it that way, Rich, but you're absolutely right. He said, he said,
it's an interesting view. I tend to think the government knows a whole lot more than they let on about UFOs and aliens. So I can see that. Have
you ever heard of the Kinross incident?
No.
UFO incident? This is fun because it's my backyard. Right outside of town here. So we've got the Sioux Locks shipping canal right here in Sault Ste. Marie, connects Lake Superior down to Lake Huron. There were big rapids here. And so this back in 1855 got mined out basically so they could put this locking system in so you could get commercial vessels between the Great Lakes.
Yep.
So, most of the iron ore that's mined in the western Great Lakes region, so over in Duluth area and all through Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula into Minnesota, all comes through the Soo Locks. And this fuels the American steel industry. So during the World War II, this was considered a vital target. If they took out the Soo Locks, then you would cripple the American steel industry, which was feeding to the American military complex.
Yep.
So we had an Air Force base here. They had barrage balloons over the locks. It was considered a prime target for the Axis forces. And in the late 1950s, it was after World War II, but during the Cold War, our military base, Air Force Base, was still in Kinross, which is 15 miles outside of Sault Ste. Marie. So one day in, I want to November, December in that area, there's this blip that shows up above the Soo Locks in a no-fly zone. And there's this object there, and nobody knows what it is. And it starts taking off at a great rate of speed. So they scramble this Scorpion fighter jet out of Kinross from the Air Force Base, 2 pilots, Wilson and Monclaw, on board, and they chase this object out over Lake Superior.
Wow.
And they're going, and they're going out over the lake, heading west, and they can't keep up with it. And all of a sudden it slows down, and at some point, the Scorpion fighter jet starts getting closer to this unknown object, and transmissions start breaking up. And all of a sudden on the radar, it goes around and you see the 2 objects getting closer, and then the 2 objects merge.
Wow.
Neither are seen again. They drop off radar. No wreckage is ever found. No flotsam, no oil slicks. They search. No sign of these 2 pilots was ever found. Mm-hmm. They've never found anything in the lakes. They just disappeared. Wow. One of the people working the radars after the fact came back and said they received something after they had disappeared off radar of a communication that he swore was Felix Monclaw, the one pilot's voice coming through, but very broken up. But the 2 objects, you lost 2 U.S. servicemen in pursuit of this unknown object that was hovering over the Soo Locks area, chasing out over Lake Superior. Nobody to this day knows what happened. There's been nothing of wreckage found of the plane or whatever this object was. The U.S. military blamed it on Canadian Air Force. They said they were doing some kind of activities in the area at the time, and they think that the 2 might have collided. And the Canadians right away said, whoa, no, we have all of our records are right here. We had nobody in this area.
Right.
Nice way to try and play it off, but
right.
There is still no real reason why this jet went down or what it was chasing. Nobody knows to this day, and this happened back in the 50s. If you Google Kinross incident, you'll find all kinds of reports. It's been covered pretty. It's gotten a lot of coverage on a lot of shows, but for some reason, it's never quite gotten the, I think, notoriety that things like the Roswell incident or it still boggles my mind. Because like I said, we lost 2 trained fighter pilots that night, and it just seemed to get blown off. The media never covered it heavily, and it hasn't gotten the attention it deserved.
Well, I mean, there was that incident. I had an author on a while back, and she had a bunch of UFO incidents, and like one of them was like, I think it was like 53 or maybe 56, and it was like DC, and they were like flying saucers going over the nation's capital. Like, whatever happened to this film data that we had that apparently captured this on? Like, why isn't anybody like, hey, wouldn't this be like a major news? You would think it'd be a major news story.
I find it amusing nowadays, too, that with everything that's being disclosed right now, you see the Navy letting things out, and they're getting a lot more public about it. Yeah. But there was always this concern that the American society in general wouldn't know how to accept this information.
Right.
They're putting it out in mainstream media, and nobody cares. Nobody's batting an eye. It's another news topic.
Right. Yeah. It's
unless you're like us and interested.
It's like we're numb to it or something. I don't know. There was a friend of mine. He's involved with a grant project. Oh God, AAIA. I forgot what it stands for now, but he does like the grant writing. But it's the UAP project that he's with. It's headed up by a former jet pilot for the Navy, and this guy like runs the project because he like had so many experiences like midair with these like craft that were like stopped, and they would go like Mach 6 like in the blink of an eye and be gone.
Yeah.
And all this information is coming out, and people are like, yeah,
this disclosure's happening, and nobody seems to be too shocked. I think part of that too is I think like you and I said, I think most people realize that the government's known more about this for many years.
Yeah, so we're kind of desensitized to it almost at this point. And
yeah, I think we as civilians have figured out a lot more over the years than the government gave us credit for. It's just, it's not that it's not a big deal. It's that you're not telling us anything that we didn't know or at least suspect.
For sure. So I'm looking up at speaking of Google, I Googled Saint Marie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I Google. You guys could like spit into Canada. Yeah. So you're like wicked close. Another thing you're wicked close to is Mackinac Island. There's something to go see about Mackinac Island, right? Have you explored that area? Can you talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. Mackinac Island's very haunted. That is. Yeah, it's wild. It is going back before the Europeans arrived. Mm-hmm. Mackinac Island was a Native American burial ground. The entire island is a graveyard.
Oh, God.
It was where tribal chiefs and the revered elders would be taken over by canoe and buried there. And the natives believed that to be the place of origin. That was Michilimackinac, the great turtle, they called it, because of the shape of the island they felt resembled a turtle. And some of the native lore from over there, be it Pukwudgies, there were giants that were believed to roam the island. Mm-hmm. I've had an experience over there that I still can't explain, with these weird light forms that came around and were circling people one after another. Basically what in British lore would be fairy folk. But in Native American lore was some tribes would describe it as a Pukwudgie. Others have more of a spiritual type connotation to it. But yeah, I've had that happen there. I've had doppelganger appearances over there, which is really wild.
Wow.
Yeah, the island's you step off. There's no cars on the island. It's all horse and buggy or bicycle. You can't take motorized vehicles outside of emergency vehicles over there. And you step off this ferry to get onto the island, and there's just a different energy there. It's hard to describe if you've never been there. Mm-hmm. It's very primordial. It's elemental to a point. In fact, it's one of the more magical places I guess you could ever go. Okay. And a lot of people that have been there will tell you the same thing. Yeah, we've done. We were fortunate enough. Our team some years back, we had a production crew that was working with us. They were just doing a regional documentary. And we were given Mission Point Resort, which is kind of off to the side on the island. It's not right in the downtown, but at one point in time, it was an Indian mission school. It had been converted into a college for a brief 4-year period.
Yep.
It was a moral rearmament movement, this worldwide kind of a cult had headquartered there at one time. And we were given the whole campus, which is a very large chunk of land and multiple buildings to investigate overnight. And it was at the end of winter. And if you talk about creepy, this was as close to The Shining as you would get.
Oh boy, here we go.
Big hotel. It was snowing. There's nobody else in there. And again, going back to I think what we started with, here's the keys, lock up when you're done, kind of thing. And we're in God knows how many tens of millions of dollars this property's worth. And there were a couple caretakers around, and that was it. And they just let us have the run of it for the night. It was a hell of a night. We had a great time. We had great experiences going on. We had doors closing, voices, figures up in a balcony, just everything. And this was a lot of it was caught for this video that we'd ended up getting put out with Keeping Out Video Productions that we were with. So
nice.
Very, very blessed to have had that experience. No, we go once, twice a year to the island, though. We're that close. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
we're
that's
fortunate
awesome.
with that.
That's great. There's that kind of
once everything freezes up, you can only get there by plane, or when the river and the lakes are really frozen, you can, if you're brave enough, you can take a snowmobile across from the mainland to the island. Every now and then somebody goes through.
Yeah, so, I won't even ice fish, so I don't know if I would do that, but
yeah,
maybe head up that way in the summer, maybe, because I've heard like so many things about Mackinac Island. I was like, oh, I saw that. I'm like, oh, he's right there. Oh, look at that, huh? I've been to Michigan once. We drove through. We went through New York, went through Niagara Falls, went over the top, came out through Detroit, and then went through Ohio and Pennsylvania back to Rhode Island. But really interesting state. I'd love to explore the rest of it, especially up that way, too. So let me ask you something, Brad. Being from that northern, you're like way the hell up there north.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're like into Canada if you weren't in Michigan. Do you follow sports? Are you a sports guy?
Some.
Okay.
So I got to be, actually it's kind of the reverse of the normal. My son got me watching football.
Okay.
So I got to be a big Lions fan the last few years.
Oh, there you go. They've been winning. Yeah.
I was a big Detroit Tigers fan.
Yeah.
We got into where TV coverage started to get splintered off, and you had to buy this bag. Anyways,
yeah.
Unless I'm sitting at a bar with the TV in front of me, I don't get to see as many games as I'd like to. But
yeah.
I'm not a huge enthusiast, but I do like my sports.
You got a lot of sports out there. Michigan University, Detroit, Milwaukee, Green Bay.
A lot of hockey up here.
Oh yeah, a lot of. I'm sure up in Canada. My Bruins just got bounced out of the playoffs. Not that we were like really.
College football is a big deal too.
Oh yeah, for sure, right?
Ohio and Michigan.
Ohio and Michigan, that's a big field.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm a Buck guy. I'm from Ohio.
Okay.
But I lived in Michigan before. I lived in Ann Arbor.
Okay, well, that's U of M country, yeah. Of course, Michigan State's always in the running somewhere down the level, not quite to the level of U of M, but yeah, they get their years into.
Yeah, and I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I hate both Ohio and Michigan. So that's that. There's that, guys. With that, wrapping up. Before we wrap up, John, you got any last questions you want to ask our beloved guests this evening?
Just other than your supernaturalhaunts.com, is there anywhere else that you would prefer people to contact you?
If you hit me up on Facebook and X, I usually reply within a day or two. All of our books are up on Amazon, supernaturalhaunts.com. We've got we try and keep the site updated. That falls by the wayside from time to time, but yeah, you can get any of our stuff on Amazon. And follow our sites on. We still do. We don't do Michigan Paracon, the big event that it was, but we're doing smaller events now. It got to be a lot. It was 15 months to put every show together. After 15 years, that got a little bit wearisome, and we're getting not younger, let's say. So we're still putting out some smaller events that we pump out through miparacon.com. You can check us out there as well.
Nice. That'd be great. Brad, thanks for being on, dude. You great guest, dude. Great. I can pick your brain for hours, dude.
Thanks for having me. You guys are fun to sit and have a beer with on a.
What do you got for beer? What are you drinking again, sir?
Well, it's Blatz. It's established 1851 Milwaukee. It's one of the great old Wisconsin swill beers.
So, there you go.
Yes.
If not anything, folks, drink good beer. But if anything, tune in. Speaking of great beer, tune in next Thursday as we do Three Dudes Brews, the last call, and of course this week as we release Three Dudes Brews from Nickel Creek. I said it right again, Nickel Creek Winery. Fantastic wines there in Foster, Rhode Island. And then coming soon, the Guild, one of the biggest brewers in Rhode Island. Tune in for all that great stuff. Tune in next Tuesday here on the Goat and the Ghost and the Goat as we welcome Brian Bowden. Brian's a big UFO guy from the lovely state of New York, like the Yankees, who I hate the most.
Hey, so do I.
Oh yeah, awesome. Hey, awesome news, dude. Oh, by the way, Brad, the Sox did beat Detroit tonight, 10-3. But thanks for that one victory that you gave us that we will savor for the next month.
Keep your chins up.
Yeah, maybe. So for Brad Blair, for my co-host Jai, this has been Buddy there. You haven't seen my face, but you hear my voice. This has been the Ghost and the Goat podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good week. Go Red Sox, please, Jesus. Have a good week, guys.